call that radio. You call that radio TV. You call that radio TV.
This is You Call That Radio.
This is You Call That Radio. Sorry we're late. It's all my fault. But we're ready and live to join Graeme Armstrong, author of The Young Team. Graeme, can you hear me?
I can hear you, buddy.
All right, man. Sorry about that earlier on. We're live now, and hopefully we can get a wee chat about your amazing book, The Young Team, man. I've not had a chance to read it all or listen to it all, but I'm fair enjoying the audio book just now. And yeah, man, what's the background to it?
It's based on my time, mate, growing up in Airdrie and Coatbridge. Obviously part of the young team culture, known as Neds, Scottish Neds.
You know what else, man? Well done as well for you've actually, when you type in Young Team now, because I just stole that image for the internet. Young Team, and there you are.
I know, mate. I know. Like I was looking for something last night, and it was on Glasgow Parter on the Wikipedia page, and I seen that there's an entry about the Young Team on it. So if you look up Parter, mate, it's my name under it, which is quite good. Made me laugh, not me.
And man, well done in the success, man. It seems to be traveling well, and yeah, man, it's absolutely amazing. Just, I think I told you when via Twitter and stuff, when we were talking about it, that it's just the nostalgia, man. It's just your attention to detail is amazing, and it just reminds me of the old days, man.
Mate, that's it. Honestly, like, obviously a work of fiction's always a work of fiction, but loads of it's based on true stuff. Do you know what I mean? All the emotion that drives it, all the energy that drives it, the culture, the fashion, the music. I underestimated music in it, how powerful that was. Loads of people messaged me. A really well-known crime writer, Alan Park, said, "Have you made a Spotify playlist?" And I said, "No, but I did it." And just loads of people listening to it. It's brilliant.
It's amazing, man. And it was a big undertaking to make it happen, because I was wondering that when I was reading that, I was like, there's so much attention to detail here. Like you can feel it, you can smell it, and I mean it wasn't easy to do. Is that right? It took a while.
Oh, it took 8 years, mate, start to finish. I was just about finishing uni when I was 21, and when you say that, people think you're some kind of mad geek, mate, but I definitely wasn't. I was just coming out the back of, a decade of young team life, the drugs and gangs and all the rest of it, and then I was in my first days of drug withdrawal, mate, sitting coming off booze and cannabis eckies, and I was sitting thinking, I need to do something, and I started writing the young team, mate, and I seen it right through to the very, very bitter end, and I didn't realise it would take so long, and I certainly didn't appreciate how far it would go either,
I heard you say in an interview it was like war. Every day was like a war.
It was, mate. It felt like that. Do you know what I mean? Because I wasn't one of the privileged kids, mate. It was just, an artist. I was working 6 days a week selling cars, or I was working in retail and low paid jobs. And that was 5 or 6 days a week, and then on my days off I was doing the young team book, so I worked 7 days a week for the most part of it, mate, so it was like a war,
And was the editing process, man, I always find, because obviously, I've thought about the idea of writing a book. I've not really got the concentration span, and also the editing process itself sounds brutal, man.
See, to be honest with you, I think most people are the same. See, when you start writing, you don't even realise editing's a thing. You just think everything you write's absolutely spot on, do you know what I mean? And then you realise quicker it's no, you know what I mean? It's miles away. And actually, the writing bit is the fun bit, and that only takes 5 minutes. It's the going back over it and over it and over it until you get something that's actually solid, and then trying to get make that jump from art to business. Because essentially publishers are businesses, mate, and they invest in your art as a product to sell. So it needs to be first rate, But editing, brutal. Took a long time, especially the dialect stuff.
Is with man what about your the reaction to writing in Scots, because it's colloquial Lanarkshire, would you say?
Aye, yeah. well, people say all the time, oh, it's written in slang, but it's not written in slang, do you know what I mean? It's written in vernacular dialect, so it's just the way we talk. While that opens doors for you, it closes a lot of doors as well. You know, I honestly counted, and it was about 300 rejections, right? I was 50 to 70 applications per year for 6 years, and the majority of people closed the door because of the language. You know, but it's one of the most important things that we do as working class writers is use our voice in an authentic way, you know, because it's that authenticity that connects with people in our community. You know, and that's why young guys, like they say all the time, it's the first book I've ever read because you're speaking to them in their own language. Publishers take that away for commercial reasons. I don't think they realise what they're doing often. You know, they're just looking at the product and thinking it's harder to sell, so we're not going to try.
It's just that, man, with the fact that you mentioned that there's people that have got to be authentic, and that people will be looking at that or listening to the audiobook as well. It's amazing delivering the audiobook as well for anyone that's maybe not so good at reading. I like reading a good book as well, but when I've got an audiobook, I know that I'll get through it quicker, if you know what I mean, than find the time to read it. So for anyone there who's not brilliant at reading, check out the audiobook. The delivery on it's absolutely spot on, and you can hear it every single word. You can feel every single word. So I'd recommend that. And man, it's like I think you've said it in another interview as well, but when Trainspotting came out, when we were wee guys and just having Welsh books, just seen it at first, you know, it was like, at first it was quite difficult to get quick, because I think just a wee bit different for, you know, Glasgow patter or West Coast patter. But once you got into it, it was like, wow. And I think it just shows you, I think that your book could do exactly the same thing, man, for people who are maybe just not even thought about reading a book, or they just maybe feel like they're not represented in the literature world.
100%. Like, see, for me, it was funny how I came to Trainspotting, right? Because I've told the story many times about it was a lassie sitting next to me, but the book came years later. I like first seen the film. I think I must have been about 13 or 14, and my pal at the time was like, "Oh, you love that Born Slippy? That's the Trainspotting theme tune." And I says, "What's Trainspotting?" And we sat and watched it in a high-rise flat, Allen Tower in Motherwell, right? And I was drinking a bottle of wine and all that. And I didn't even realise what I was watching. I could just feel the pure energy. And I still think that sometimes, even all these years later, 15, 17 years later, when I think and I go, wow, it's an amazing thing. And the book obviously was another level as well. But Danny Boyle and that, they brought that to life in such a special way, you know what I mean? It connected with so many people. It's inspired artists, God, for the last, 20, 25 years. And it still continues to do so.
Man. You know? There's absolutely nothing like it, man. And what did you make of the sequel?
I thought it felt a wee bit more like an homage to the original rather than a standalone. Like, Porno was a good story in itself, you know what I mean? But I think it felt almost like a celebration of Trainspotting rather than a sequel, do you know what I mean? Which obviously it deserves to be celebrated. It was great. I thought the stuff about the Orange Hall was absolutely spot on, even though I'm a good Rangers man myself. I just thought that was hilarious, you know what I mean? They got the humour bang on, so it was good.
And you're working on the new book just now. There's actually an old Gyro Babies lyrics for the Street Young team to the club drug scene.
Oh,
and that looks like what you're trying to do, what you're doing just now with your new book.
Definitely. Like, I think even though the troops in the young team go to a couple of raves, it was understated, you know, because they went to 2 raves, we went to 22 raves, you know, and the whole emotion and experience of going to the raves. And obviously we were the kind of second generation, do you know what I mean? We were the second wave after all the 90s pioneers, illegals and all that. We were often in the early 2000s, we were actually seeing the revival stuff of 10 years ago. Not that we knew that at the time, we thought we were the first to experience it, you know what I mean? Every generation does, you know what I mean? But we were seeing it properly, big one, like Tiesto, public domain. I was seeing DJs that I'd never even dreamt I would ever see, do you know what I mean? And there they were, Lasco, Ian Van Dahl, classic Ibiza tunes, you know what I mean? Right in front of me, mate. And obviously the ecstasy scene was absolutely wild at the time. It was just another level, you know? It wasn't pure and Mandy and all that. It was a £2 ecstasy tablets, you know, and Scotland was just flooded with them, you know what I mean? So we were big into that. So I'm trying to capture that in the new book, you know, and the madness of it. But it's, you know, I want to be unexpected, mate. Everybody, when they look at a young team, they say, it's a book about gangs. But, you know, it's unexpected. And I want Raveheart to do exactly the same thing, you know?
It's so often the rave is the way out. just to kind of, you know, like when you're growing up in a scheme and you're just sort of fighting with the next bit over and all that. Then you go to, whether it's a rave or even a early tea in the park, you're kind of you're feeling the love, you're taking whatever, and you're meeting people from all across the country or different countries, and you're all sharing a bond. And do you think that, you know, it is a way out for a lot of people in gangs or going through bad times?
100%.
But there's also a danger that you can maybe obviously overdo that stuff as well.
100%, mate. Like, I see, to be honest with you, I use colour in the young team and I always talk about it. All we ever seen colour-wise was a purple sky and orange lights. There was no colour in our lives. It was monochrome. You know, and when you got to raves and even PC DJing to an extent, it just was like unbridled colour, do you know what I mean? And we just didn't see that in a deprived community. But same, and I've compared it to like Icarus, mate, trying to capture the sun. That's what it was like, mate. We just flew too high in the stratosphere and, you know, the wings burned up and you're crashing back to Earth. And, you know, that's exactly what it was, chasing Class A's. Everybody that's took Class A drugs, regardless of what they are, you know that you can't take them forever heavily. You know, like, you're going to suffer. And suffering came, you know. The good time, the bad time started to outweigh the good, and that was it. It was game over.
And how long? So, what from your own personal journey? For do, I think you like to smoke, to put it mildly.
Yes, mate. Oh, big time. I was a big smoker. It's like 50 quid a day. I was smoking a quarter of green every single day. I don't even know where I got the money. Student loan, mate, and work. You know, me and my mate were laughing once because I'd spent like 12 quid in a week for food, you know what I mean? And the rest of it just went up in smoke, literally. You know, and then started taking blues all the time. And you're just living like a heroin addict, mate, you know what I mean? You're living for drugs, you're not really looking after yourself, you look terrible. Like, I've put pictures of myself before and after, and it's horrendous, mate, you know what I mean? Three people have said to me in the last week, you've not aged a bit since school, mate. And I was like, I know, I look younger than I did when I was young, you know what I mean?
Were you actually studying at uni while you were going through that? When did the recovery process sort of kick in?
No, mate, I didn't stop using drugs until I was in my very last week, say fourth year in uni. So my uni experience wasn't really a uni experience, mate. I just turned up to the bare minimum of classes, tried not to get chucked out. You know what I mean? I ended up, I shared a flat with a boy that was in young teams in Knightswood in Glasgow. And our uni experience was totally excluded for the rest of us. Do you know what I mean? We just kept living a street life. Only we turned up at classes sometimes and we got a student loan, which obviously just gets spent in drinking drugs, you know. And then, sorry mate, on you go.
It's funny, no matter where you go, man, whether that's working in a call centre, you always find that accomplice.
Oh, 100%. You know what? Somebody said to me, you've got to look, by the way. And I was like, what do you mean? And they went, just the look, you know what I mean? You know, you've lived. And I laughed and I was like, I suppose I do. And I think we had a sixth sense, you know what I mean, for people that took drugs, people that are up to madness, you know what I mean? We could always find one, and then it's a partner in crime, isn't it, mate? You know, to go and do madness with, and that's exactly what we did.
So you still managed to get the results you needed in uni, though?
Aye, mate. I actually started doing history and English, and they popped me out history after I failed one of the core modules, and I was upside down, mate. Honestly, I was quite depressed in first year, living in halls and all that, just constant drug abuse. And then I scraped through. I had to do a couple of night classes after hours to pull back grades. But eventually, the very end of uni was I used the young team, mate, for my dissertation because I'd started writing it and I was obviously drug-free by then. And that pulled me up, mate. So I got a first for the young team, basically, for the dissertation, and that pulled me up to a 2-1, mate. So I got as good as anybody's wins, do you know what I mean? Who'd have thought it? You know what I mean?
We have Dr. Dempster on the show before. I don't know if you know Dr. Dempster, but we're talking about Scots language and stuff like that. And it's quite interesting, like when you're undertaking this, like how to spell things, and with the text messaging starting and internet and everyone talking, it feels like we've actually, like the West Coast anyway, does seem to have its own language now. Like there seems to be agreed spellings on words that before the internet we would have just, we're never seen written down. Was there any
100%.
words that was there? Did you have this situation sometimes when you were like a word that you'd maybe just say all the time, and you're like, but you're writing it in the book, and you're like, how the fuck did I actually write that, man?
I think the language of the dialect, right, was just, it changed so much, right? And apparently this is the same thing that happened to Irvine Welsh, right? Like the way I wrote it, right, the first time around, the first part was literally like I was talking to people on MSN. Like, was that, you know what I mean? And it was literally like, see if you weren't fair, Jacob Bridge, you probably couldn't read it, mate, you know what I mean? That's just how bad it was. And then I met Janice Galloway, who also had a hand in Trainspotting, right? And she laughed and she's like, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Irvine Welsh all the years ago. This needs to be much more legible, you know what I mean? You need to tone that right down. And I don't think I made too many compromises on that, right? But I think the words that were in there are just the words we would use, do you know what I mean? But there was some like changed, like we say lit for like I was like that and all that. But see if you say that, it doesn't make sense, do you know what I mean? When people are reading it, they just can't get it. So there's no point in that, you know. It had to be understandable for the masses, but then authentic for us. But I don't think any words were like missed out of that, mate.
You did try the idea of writing in the Queen's English.
Do you know what? I did briefly, right? Because see, after 5 years, mate, right, you try anything, right? I'd gone so far down the road, right, that failure wasn't an option anymore, do you know what I mean? And even my family and that, who believed in all this, and they'd seen the effort, they were like, you need a plan B, because this isn't working. And I was like, there isn't a plan B, do you know what I mean? Like, what am I going to do? Sit and, you know what I mean, do a job I don't want to do for the rest of my life, sell motors and all that, and I can earn money doing it, but it's not what I want, it's not where my heart is. My heart's in this book and the project, you know what I mean?
Sales is a nightmare, man. It's
tough, like, mate. It's very, very
a lot of highs and lows involved. It's no good for your mental health, man.
No, and I think I might have a book in there for sure about selling motors, by the way, because I work for everybody, mate. Arnold Clark, Evans Halshaw, Peter Vardy, sold cars in London. You know what I mean, in North London. And I done well, mate. I enjoyed it.
A few characters on that journey as well.
100%, mate. Stranger than fiction. Do you know what? See if I write a book about that, know the wee tagline, it's going to be more than this is true than you'd believe. You know what I mean? Know what I mean?
And it's why I was listening to your book, and it's just all the things like Legoland.
Legoland schemes, aye.
I'm for Ayrshire recently as well, but it's there was Legoland or Spam Valley, or and it was funny that you've got a Roadrunner Polish. We had a Roadrunner Polish as well.
Do you know what's funny, right? Ours was actually called Sonic, right? But I didn't want to use names at anybody, you know what I mean? But I was like, legs gone like Sonic the Hedgehog, you know what I mean? And everybody knew that, do you know what I mean, here? And if Sonic was after you, man, that was you're captured, you know what I mean? It was Cowboys and Indians, a lot of that, mate. It was fun, do you know what I mean? It was fun, a lot of that.
And the soap bar as well. Like
soap bar, aye.
I don't think you get a soap bar anymore. But that's a big difference, I suppose, when you're, I don't know. I think you're maybe a bit ages when you're a bit younger or something, running about the same. And when you're smoking weed every day, it was like soap bar every day, and then when you get good green, that was a nice wee surprise. You know, maybe you'd get a good green, and then out of nowhere there was just green, good quality green everywhere, and that changes the game, because if you're an everyday smoker and you're switching from soap bar to high grade chronic, you know what I mean, there's going to be effects there.
100%, mate. And do you know what? It was like the famous dry up, you know what I mean? This dry up, everybody's like dry up, you know what I mean? And it was about 2004, 2005, and nobody's like, can I get any dope, man? Can I get bars? And they were like, fuck it, we can get Eckies, but wow, you know what I mean? The market gets flooded, you know what I mean? And I never smoked dope that full summer. I was sitting at my barn eating Eckies on Tuesday mornings, you know what I mean? And just going absolutely mental, man. We were all selling them and all that. It was just crazy. And then, I don't know what happened. I mean, the way I remember it is there was, so you the £1, £2 swedgers kicking about, and then the MCAT and all that stuff came out, and then that was that, mate. That was the end. That was the end. You know that the mephedrone and the bubbles and all that. And I'm like, is that fucking what's even going on, man? Where's the £2 Picador? You know what I mean? You just to pay £60 for 100 of them. Do you know what I mean? And like that would be you, man. You had to take a good whack of them. Do you know what I mean? Like some of the boys that used to take the £2 ones tried to take the tenner ones and end up in hospital. Some of them ended up dead, man, because they tried to eat about 5 or 10 of them. And then they just, you know.
Aye, it was I think that because MCAT was ridiculously cheap, all that stuff was cheap. People were taking that, and also it was legal at the time. It was actually legal.
Legal highs.
It was so people were taking all of that. So then I think that whoever was doing the ectos had to come back stronger, and they came back with the mental tenor ones. And like you said, man, that was dangerous, just the same way that the green was dangerous because it's a stronger one. And maybe people, for example, who hadn't touched anything for a couple of years, well, like you said, treating them like, oh, I can handle a swedger, but taking, the tenor ones were not to be fucked with in the same way.
100% right. And by the way, you were spot on about the green, right? Because honestly, we used to sit and soup dope buckets all the time, right? Roll joints, man, till you passed out, and you rarely whited or that. Do you know what I mean? It was just you were stoned. You know what I mean? See, when that green came out, I was abusing it to no end, man. You used to get the crystal collector in the bottom, and my mate would do a sandwich, he used to call it, and he would put green in the socket to a bucket, and then he'd put crystals, and then he'd put more green. And honestly, man, see, when you soaked that thing, you were fucking ticking like a Timex, man. I was fucking fidgeting and all that, and I wasn't feeling well at all, you know what I mean? My anxiety and that panic attacks, I was going, I had to stop, mate, do you know what I mean? I was like in a really bad way with all that. I know I was heading to destruction, you know.
Got, some people tuned in. We've got Lee tuned in. Hello, Lee. Petra says, I get a feeling all drug culture is controlled by the big controllers. They dictate what a drug culture does. Know what I mean?
I think, to be honest with you, right, drugs is a fantastic business model. It's very adaptable. Just what you said there, right? It revitalises. I write that in the young team. When this cheap, creedy, new synthetic drugs, all the illegal highs come out, right, all the big boys, they're not going to lose money, you know what I mean? So what they do is revitalise. Now you've got £10 eckies, now you've got pure cocaine, and the drugs landscape in Scotland was transformed forever.
And now you've got pure cocaine.
That's it, you know what I mean? And I pure, you know what I mean? But I took a line of that pure just before I stopped, and honestly, I was just in a state of pure anxiety. It's horrible, mate. We were taking all the £40 a gram or 3 for £100 old shite, do you know what I mean?
The council.
Aye, the council gear, mate. But that was, see, back then, see if it was on the rock and it looked all right and it smelled all right. I didn't even like Coke, I just liked the smell of it, you know what I mean? That's what I used to say. I don't know.
Lou says, Eckies for breakfast, better than Lucky Charms.
It was Eckies for brekkie, man.
Eckies for brekkie, but there's a limit in that. There's a time limit in that. I think you will get so much serotonin in your brain, and then obviously what you for people who don't know, but if you're doing it all the time, your tolerance goes up, so you're going to get less of a buzz, but you're going to get worse come downs, similar to alcohol as well. When you get older, and you get worse hangovers, and the buzz isn't as good as well. And with regards to booze, man, I mean, what were you heavy into drinking is alongside all this
mate,
stuff?
I was fucking reckless as fuck when I drunk. I was a pure bomb scare, mate, honestly. I used to walk out my mum's back on Friday, right, with a Dracula and with a fiver, and I wouldn't come back home to fucking Tuesday sometimes. And people were like, I can't believe you're so young, man. Like, you not got to school and all that? And I was like, Monday club. You know what I mean? Never went to school. Cout tonic. I was a massive wine drinker. I don't know if you've seen on my Instagram, man, the video of me tanning about a buckfast in 17 seconds. I used to think that kind of thing was funny, mate. I could drink like a fucking fish, and see, we could drink because we took swedgers all the time in gear, you know what I mean? We could just drink, and we never had to worry about it. And then see, when I stopped taking classes when I was about 20, right, just before I stopped using full drugs, I tried to drink, and honestly, the conditions I would end up in that year were absolutely abominable. They were diabolical. Honestly, I get lifted and all that because I couldn't walk. I was fucked. Used to think I could drink 2 bottles of Buckfast and walk about. I just couldn't, man. You know what I mean?
Well, the downing culture is just it's a thing. It's celebrated by anyone who can do it. I had a mate who could drink a pint in like 2 gulps, and that was his party piece. And we would all celebrate that. And then you look back and you go, that wasn't a good idea. And even now, I don't like seeing people downing something because you're like, oh my god, that's reckless. Or anyone doing anything too much, you're like, here, mate, slow down. But there's just something about it. I think for a young person, it's like it's seen as oh, you're the man. You are the man for taking a dangerous substance very, very fast. Woo!
We were like Billy Big Boys, you know what I mean? Somebody had seen that in my local paper, right? And they'd put a Glenn Mavis man for Airdrie can be seen downing a bottle of Buckfast in just 17 seconds. And it was Alcohol Awareness Week, right? A double page spread. And it was JJ Chandler, the guy that owns the bottling company for Buckfast, and then myself, you know what I mean? And my mate was like, I'm getting this framed and all that. This is your 15 minutes of fame, my man. Stupid, you know what I mean? It's just pure stupidity. Lethal. I turned up a pint of vodka one night, you know what I mean? And I'm lucky to be alive. I'm actually lucky to be here. Why did I do it, you know what I mean?
In the park, I did that as well, went down in straight vodka just to win a bet. Basically, it wasn't like someone bet me, I bet them, I could do it. You know what I mean? It's just a bit, obviously there's no way that I could do that. And in fact, I couldn't even drink vodka for a couple of years because just the memories of it all. Fucking reckless behaviour. What about, did you go to Tea in the Park or anything like that, or were you more...
Mate, I went, mate, I was a big raver, right? They took me once, right, because my older ones were kind of right into all that, Stone Roses and all that. And they're like, come man, you'll enjoy it, right? It'll be a good laugh. And I was like, right, no bother. I was a fucking arsehole a full weekend, you know that? Everybody fell out with me. I met one of the GYT, the Green Girls ones, coming up, right? And he was literally pulling his Moz wheelie bin full of bottles of tonic. And he's like, I'm not getting in with these, man. We need to drink them. And I drank 2 in the queue. And that just set the tone for the whole weekend. I was a fucking arsehole, do you know that? I was an arsehole with it. Just far too much drink. See that? I had to go one night in, party, and one night home, back to the gaff. See that 3 days? Too much for me. Couldn't hack it. Couldn't handle the scandal.
What's Airdrie like these days for young team wise and stuff like that? I've from living just in schemes in Glasgow and stuff, I've noticed that there just doesn't seem to be the same camaraderie, the same amount of young teams or people hanging about outside and doing stuff. I don't know if this is because people have got Xboxes and PlayStations or whatever, but or for what the reason is, but it seems to be less prevalent now than it was, or is that just because I'm too old, or what do you think?
I think it's both, right? I think you're right. There is no visible young team culture, right? We were at it was like the last days of Rome when we were running about, you know what I mean? This crazy young team thing that started in 1990, and you know, it went right through to 2005, where where Europe's murder capital, things that it's like bare out there. And then they start cracking down, and eventually all that generation, us included, we were probably the youngest. We came of age, mate. We started having wains, getting jobs, and it just fizzled. But it's a dangerous thing to think that it's gone, because the conditions for all that are actually worse than they were then. See, a lot of that behaviour, that was caused out of the recessions in the 80s. You know what I mean? We've come out of the 2008 recession. Now we're getting into coronavirus recession. It's guaranteed. And you know, if you look at our young men now, right, they're all... It's like fucking football factory out there, mate. Know what I mean? With all the Green Brigade and Union Bears. Know what I mean? They're like Tommy Johnston running about spray painting and all that, and we're in the Stone Island. There was a lull, but it's back.
That's a good point, because you've got people like, say for example, anyone who's born in 2004 onwards, they've seen is recessions, and we're talking about communities that were already deprived, communities that already did have parents with drinking drugs problems, and now everything now with this last year as well on top of it, then yeah, man, it's dangerous to say that it's gone, because I'm sure it's coming back and coming back.
One of the big the cultural phenomena, right, that's took over, instead of like listening to DJ Rankin and all that, and it's the roadman scene. It's the road scene for London, right? They're watching Top Boy, they're listening to Dave and DJ Tracy and all that. And I've said this to prominent people, and they've kind of laughed and they say, we've not seen that. And I say, well, trust me, right? Our young boys are seeing all that and they're thinking, this is amazing, right? All the money, you know what I mean? Wearing the 50 grand kettles and the rest, right? It's a glamorised reality, right? Our wee young team, right, they run about here, my mates, wee bra, right? They call themselves the 238, right? We took on M-Toy, right? And then it became GYT, and then we were Young Mavis, right? And now they're the fucking 238. I said, what's that? The bus for Glasgow or something? And they were laughing, right? But these wee guys are radical, mate. They're running about in balaclavas like Shinobi, head to toe in black. Honestly, see if you turned up like that down the park in our day, what would the people have said? They'd have laughed. Yeah, a ninja or something, riding about in bikes and all that. It's pure London culture, you know, right?
Do you know, that's another thing as well, I suppose, is fashion and clothing has changed a lot as well. So, you know, maybe we would have been quick to assume that someone was dressed some way, so they might be part of the local young team. But now, you know, it's I don't want to use the word metrosexual, but it's a different look that young people are taking on in general, and that doesn't mean that they're any less mental or they're doing any less drugs or they're getting up to any less mischief. But they just, maybe if you only seen a few together, you'd just be like, oh, they're just.
Mate, that was already changing back then, right? Like, see, in 2012, already chinos came out and all that. I was wearing chinos, know what I mean, to the discos and all that. Everybody was, right? And I was like, in the young team, I'm like, the wee chino and body warmer mafia, know what I mean? They cunts would lay an egg before they smash somebody's working window, know what I mean? And we were fucking tough wee soldiers, know what I mean? Kicking about in the trackies, and we didn't have money, mate. We didn't have watches and all that, know what I mean? Like, fucking, you were lucky if somebody had a phone, do you know what I mean? And we weren't in poverty stricken. Times were just different, you know what I mean? A phone cost about 120 quid, no $1,000, you know?
Well, and music-wise, I suppose, because it was all about the dance tunes, which, you know, the only really references to drugs in the dance tunes was usually taking ecstasy, dancing the night away, that kind of drug reference. And then I suppose hip hop came in, which glamorized a lot of stuff, but mostly the gangster rap that we were listening to was more like weed, like, you know, it was how much weed they having the most expensive weed in the so. But now I suppose I'm not going down the road of blaming grime or anything like that.
No.
I suppose, but with them, you know, it is about that road culture you're talking about selling coke, getting rich and stuff like that, and that is going to have an effect.
It's changed over there and all. You think about Tupac and Biggie, right? Biggie was all about the swagger, you know what I mean? And Tupac he started social realism and then he became a gangster. The story of Tupac makes me sad. Do you know that? I've got this heavy heart when I think about Tupac because his mom was a serious drug user, crack addict, right? And there he is, you know what I mean? He's been dotting from here to here and here. You know what I mean? And then he gets this chance to be a hip hop artist. And when you see him, he's an art. He used to quote Shakespeare and chat up with birds and all that. He was a cheeky chappy. And then he became a fucking gangster. Do you know what I mean? Like he shot cops and all that. And he was in with the wrong crowd. You know what I'm saying? And I think but his music was still social realism, right? He was still talking about his community. He was still trying to help. See, now, mate, it's not about that. It's just about how much money can you stack by selling crack cocaine. You know what I mean? How many watches can you get? How many motors can you get? What's the birds like? That's what it is now. There's no social realism, I don't think. Times have changed.
It's mad that, man. With and that, so with music as well, with like, say for example, Colours Fest and stuff. What was the nightclubs for you, man?
I didn't really go. I mean, I didn't even really go. I now and again I went to the arches, right? But only a couple of times. I was too young for all that, mate. Because see, by the time I turned 18, right, I was on the downward dark. You know what I mean? Like, see, when I got to college and that, I was 16, right? I was young. I was like the baby of the group. And see, when I went to clubs, right, I used to go to Play and all that, and a couple of other ones, right? And I went out and I was like, is this the dancing? Is this what this is? Because this is bish, right? It's all posers. You can't get out your barnet. You know what I mean? You need to wear fucking black shoes. Because, see, back in the day, you used to have to wear shoes. See, when I tell young ones that, they don't even believe it. We used to get knocked back for wearing trainers, you know what I mean? Even black trainers are like, no, the night me, man. It was stuff, you know?
It's weird that as well. I noticed that when we started going to the sub club, I remember that one of my flatmates was a bouncer at the sub club. Sorry, one of my pals had a flatmate who was a bouncer at the sub club. And that was always a place that I struggled to get in. And I was like, you know, what should you, you know, what would you say? I was really curious, but what do you wear? Like, how do you get in? And he's like, I was like, do you need to have the shoes and the trousers on? He went, no, you're more likely to get in if you don't have that on. And I was like, wow. So I kind of figured that out, and you know, I ended up being a glass collector at sub club for a wee while. I got sacked for that, but it was a fair one. It's the only time I've been sacked where I went fair's fair, and I'm not going to that. But I remember taking my brother out to the sub club, and he was, you know, this is years later, and he was like, "Shit, I've not got my shoes on and all that," and I'm like, "No, you don't." That's the thing, you don't need shoes.
No, you don't do that. We don't do that anymore. You know what I mean? You look like
well, you look like
a pedo or something if you were going
you need to wear shoes, and there was certain clubs, I don't know what it's like now, it's been a wee while, but there was certain clubs where, you know, if, you know, the clubs that are playing the banging tunes that we're probably talking about, you still needed to wear shoes and a suit or trousers and a shirt to that kind of music. but they're two different worlds, and I think a lot of people get that mixed up when they're talking about the clubbing scene of Glasgow. It's like there is two completely different worlds, and
They totally do.
It's hard to jump between them.
They talk about like rave culture as if it was clubs, and I'm like, no, it was only clubs in Ibiza. And see, to be honest with you, when I went to Ibiza, I'm like, is this it? Is this what everybody goes nuts about? Because this is tame compared to fucking Brayhead Arena in Inglestown, you know what I mean? Because club scene is always different, right? The lassies are all dressed up and all that, you know what I mean? And like I walked to that Camphy Mambo and I'm wearing a Rangers top and all that and Hawaiian shorts, and all the guys are wearing fucking white linen, and I was like, I don't think this is my place, you know what I mean? Because it become about that. It was more like Marbella, mate, than fucking, you know what I mean? Magaluf, you know what I mean? It became like that, and it's still like that. I think a lot of the people that go to Ibiza, they've not got a clue about tunes, mate. It's all just about being a poser, you know what I mean?
Getting that selfie.
Mate. You know what I mean? Going to all the beach parties and all that with a six-pack, and we weren't about that, mate. We were just about pure madness and drugs.
What's if you compare like what young people are posting on Instagram now compared to Bebo? You know, Bebo had a young team culture attached
100%.
to it. Everyone would, you know, every profile picture was trackies, bottle of bucky. And you know, you could write on the walls, and it was you know, you could all the young team mentions on their wall. And Bebo's apparently coming back. I think they've tried to come back a few times before. It never really tends to work. But yeah, man, Bebo was sort of the start of the social media culture. But I mean, it's unrecognisable to what it is now.
100%, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, God, could you imagine what would we have put on Instagram back then? You know what I mean? Just the same as I post right now, like in a historical sense. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have anything to post. You know what I mean? I lost my phone every week practically, man, because of madness.
People have stopped losing their phone as much because they're so expensive.
I certainly do. Can you imagine, man? You can't get a new iPhone every week. You know what I mean? We were going to, well, we burner phones, man. We were kicking about with fucking Samsungs.
Also, maybe something to do with the technologies get better now, so it's harder for someone to swipe your phone and get any use out of it or sell on price for it, because, you know, with Apple, you need to have a code and all that to get in. So you can't really use it or sell it on. So people
my mate said, you know what, Young Team was like our Vietnam, and I have quoted that a million times, and I think it's fucking hilarious, by the way. But you know what, it kind of was. See, when our young ones now, I just don't think they were. I don't think they're out like standing on a derelict building all night, smoking green and fucking drinking bottles, and I just don't. You don't see it, but that's maybe because we're not living it, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard, isn't it? I'm 30 this year, mate. That's scary one. You know what I mean?
Got some comments coming in. As a youngster, shotgunning cans and bottles was a common occurrence. Paul says, if folk think things are safer now, they're mistaken. Same thing applies to days back in the day. A 13-year-old with a blade is just as dangerous as a 20-year-old with one.
100%.
And me and Louise used to work in a place in our town. Our manager used to be the GM in Bonkers, probably the most well-named pub in Glasgow. Bonkers, the pub, which we used to have a Friday office party. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was 50 pence a Budweiser, or 50 pence a beer, and it was 50 pence a vodka and Coke and stuff like that as well. So yeah, it was, and this was this is Friday afternoon, and it was Bonkers music, obviously, as the soundtrack for it. But you might just be a wee bit too young for Bonkers.
I was, mate. I used to hear people talking about jumping jacks and Archaeos and all that. I was too young for all that, man. It was like Tunnel and Play and all that. People used to go to in the Arches when I was growing up. But again, just never really did the club hang up. Just what you said, I was laughing, by the way, because I never used to get in. I looked at a right fucking plunger, do you know what I mean? And I was like, turn up in the black, no, the night, mate, you know what I mean? I wasn't the most fashionable back then. I just posted a picture of me in Colours Fest, man. I'm wearing a black fucking Lambretta shirt, do you know what I mean? That I got for a school disco. I had no fashion sense, man. It was tuned, you know what I mean?
Well, that's it, man, as well. I think I was the fashion sense, and also I think if you're having a smoke and getting on at the weekend, you look thin. And you just generally, the bouncers just have a bad vibe about you. So you're not back looking young, not ticking the fashion boxes and looking a bit thinner, like, fuck that, I'm not going to take a chance. Now it's all right, because now I look older and I'm a bit fatter. So it's, and I don't wear trackies anymore because the police stop and search you if you wear trackies.
Mate, I see the lockdown, right? I ended up ordering a couple of football trackies and I've been walking about the house and I'm cutting mine here and that, learned how to do the old fade. And honestly, I look about 16 sometimes and I'm like, wow, man. You know what I mean?
Well, it's
Takes you
comfy,
back.
man. I'm wearing a pair of jeans. I'm wearing a pair of jeans just now, man. And it feels weird because I've been kind of just wearing joggies for most of the year. I think I don't know if the jeans companies will ever recover for this, because people are starting to figure out this isn't comfy.
Do you know what? See our fashion, right? I was doing a piece for a student the other night, and she's like, "Was it unique? Was it our young team culture unique?" And I was thinking, and I says, "It was unique." Do you know that? Because see, in Ireland, it was all paramilitary, right? It was, and down in England, it was all chavs, and they had their own things, right? And we were unique. This was ours. Do you know what I mean? And just the ways like youth cultures evolved throughout the ages, right? Teddy boys, new romantics, casuals. We were the Neds. You know what I mean? In the 90s and 90s. And people say, "What is it now?" If you can tell me that, you'll be a rich man. You know what I mean? I think road culture, I think casuals, we've returned cyclical. You know what I mean? We're going back.
So you got a bit of that as well, and I think maybe another thing is that because there's so many different niches that you can get involved with online, that maybe people like, you know, like for example, that people were united by. Like I'm old enough to remember when Oasis were coming out and stuff like that. That united people. Everyone could agree that this was an event happening. It was all over the radio. It was all over the TV. Everyone was sharing that moment together. And now it doesn't really happen that way so much. Now people, if they're into a certain type of music, they've got their online tribe. If they're into a certain type of politics, they've got their own wee online tribe, and they might be, you know, interacting with people from all across the world in different little niches. And the days are gone to have that shared cultural experience. Although, having said that, I suppose that lockdown's a shared cultural experience that we're all going through. And hopefully there's a positive to come out of that, that when, when it is safe to do so, when the parties return, then maybe we can all just get along and have fun with each other. But that's obviously optimistic. The reality is that there's obviously going to be a lot of people that have been going through a really tough time that are going to be going out. I mean, do you have much hope for the future?
Mate, I think, you know, there's been a sizable economic recession, right? Every single decade since 1920, the Great Recession, right? And we can almost, if you look at it as a math sense, I'm no statistician, right? But when you look at it, there's always a spike in crime anytime people have been struggling. And it's because people have endured trauma, you know what I mean? We know this now. Adverse childhood experiences, fast forward 15 years, it puts bottles of wine in people's hands and it puts blades in pockets. So how many people are being traumatised as a result of economic distress caused by this, right? In the next 5 years, and then what's it going to look like in the next 10 years? We'll be in our 40s, know what I mean? Yeah. It'll be our kids, know what I mean, that are dealing with this carry on. So I'm hopeful. I think there is positives. We've realised the potential that we always had in our pocket for online communication. Right, I've probably spoke to more people online than I would in person. Right, there's always goods and bads. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and I think it's that's why when you hear about all these politicians making ridiculous decisions that are going to affect the worse off, it's all right for them making those decisions. They don't have to live in these communities. I think everyone else is living in those communities going, "Oh, for fuck's sake, here we go again."
I think we've seen the biggest, you know, if this doesn't convince all your middle class English Tory voters, right? They're no middle class, mate. They're like teachers that earn like 30 grand. Or you're no middle class, you can't. You're working class. You know what I mean? You live in a private estate and your fucking kids go to uni. But what happens if you lose your job? Are you still middle class? Kate fucking Middleton that married Prince William, she's middle class. She's no upper class. She's middle class. She ain't fucking struggling. They come for, Cambridge. You know what I mean? Come on, man. God's sake. We need to realise what we are. You know, we're obsessed with class, but most days are working class.
Universal basic income, most people would have been against that before lockdown. And it's weird that some people still are, yet they demanded and are grateful for and accepted their furlough monies. So it's kind of like a weird kind of thing like, oh no, but I need my furlough money because this one's not my fault.
Exactly.
Without a hint of irony, not aware that, people are in poverty because it's not their fault they were born into a situation that wasn't of their choosing.
See, if you're in the working class, you're lucky, right? Because you didn't, unless you're one of these kids that plays the Xbox for £1 million a month, do you know what I mean? Or you're a footballer, right? You're lucky because you've had family money and your family intervention, right? you know, I wouldn't say I'm no poverty experienced. God, my mum owned her own home. She always worked, right? So I'm one of the lucky ones. Do you know what I mean? There was plenty in our communities that didn't have that, you know. But now I think we've realised the disconnect between the political class and us, because they go, "Whoops, I made a mistake," and then you know a guy's like, "I've no job." Do you know what I mean? I can't live. I don't know, mate. It's frustrating. I try nobody too deep into the politics side, because honestly, I'd end up just losing my temper. Do you know what I mean? And just going off my head. They asked me to do a debate night, and I said, "Absolutely not, man. Not doing that." I need to, and I'm apolitical in the sense that I'm trying to help guys in our community, right? Whatever party they are, whatever religion they are, whatever colour they are, it doesn't matter to me. I hope that the young team can transcend all the barriers, you know, and boundaries, and there's a universality to my work that people can appreciate, you know, for many years.
But I think you nailed it when you said, you know, talking about how you had a parent that worked and stuff. So back then, that meant if you've got a parent that's working, at least one parent, if you get two parents that work, and then jackpot, even though you might not have the money for certain things, you would have food in the house and stuff like that.
Aye.
While now you could have two parents who are working and they still don't have enough money to pay the bills.
Aye, modern poverty is often working people, you know. You always feel a bit. It's the whole food bank issue is a really morally complex one. You know, people in work like, I was using a food bank or that, and you're like, are you just not managing your money? Are you struggling? Or I don't know. Maybe that's like, I think if you've got a trade right, you don't struggle that way. Do you know what I mean? Like the trades are well paid. My trade was selling motors. Do you know what I mean? So even though it was fucking hell on earth, I always walked into 25 grand a year plus. Do you know what I mean? So that was it was a privilege in its own self, you know. But loads of people don't have that. If you're working retail, you know what I mean?
You've got the skills to do sales though, and that's obviously not for everyone, man. Some people cannot hack that at all, man.
And I worked, like, don't get me wrong, mate, when I wasn't doing that, I was working in retail for £8 an hour, do you know what I mean? And I know how tight that is at the end of the month when you're trying to run a house and a motor, and there's nothing left. There's no quality of life.
At the end of the sort of boom, you know, labour boom and stuff like that, there was a wealth of sales and customer services jobs. I think a lot of like call centres and stuff like that quite like the Scottish accent because we were cheaper to pay, and the Scottish accent is quite agreeable. Probably second only to Ireland for people. So we did have quite a lot of opportunities. So if you didn't mind doing that stuff, there was, you know, you could walk out one, you could tell one boss, shove the job up your arse and walk into a next job the next time. I don't think it's as clear cut as that these days though.
Nah.
The robots are taking jobs. A lot of jobs are going overseas and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, right, like I never had that luxury, right? Because, you know what I mean, I came from a single parent family. When I had a job, I valued it, and I got sacked a couple of times for madness, right? Because I was a drug addict and I was drinking all the time. But otherwise, in the last few years, I've been in jobs that were stressing me out to the max that I just couldn't walk out of, you know. And I actually walked out a paid job just before lockdown last year in March, which in hindsight was an absolute disastrous idea because I would have been furloughed for the full summer. Wow. You know, to commit full time to my art, you know, and it demanded that, mate, because this was full on, but I wasn't getting paid, you know, so I was on a wing and a prayer essentially. And I still am, you know, in a really precarious position. But that's like, there comes a point in art where it's like, do you really believe in this enough to go into the lion's den with no money and no house? We know, you know what I mean? Loads of my pals are getting married, they've got homes, they've got everything. You know, I'm in a very precarious spot as a 30-year-old, but, you know, no, you know, that's the reality, you know.
It's if you've got enough to just make cover your bills, man, then just do it by hook or by crook, because I suppose it's that balance between time, money, you know what I mean? You work so that you've got money to have a good time or to spend it on time. So it's getting that balance right. And right now you're in a great position to really take it on. You've already, you know, so many great, amazing reviews coming in, man. And it's not just Scotland, this is going international now. She's be very proud of it, and it's like, just go for it, man. You've got the work ethic, you've got a fan base building up now. So you're quite right. Just get stuck into your books. Has there been talk of trying to turn the young team into a film?
It's probably at a more advanced stage than I'm like to tell you.
All right.
Know what I mean? it's a weird one because see, once you do agreements on that, it ceases to be yours, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's somebody else's, so you need to watch what you say. But I can say comfortably that there's healthy talk about it. You know what I mean? And there might be an announcement in the following year that it's something exciting coming. So hopefully, mate. Hopefully.
And just to wrap up, man, like, what advice would you give? Once again, apologise for being late, and I know you've got another thing happening. So just to wrap up, just to end it on a bit of a positive note, what if there is anyone out there for the schemes or anyone else actually, and they're thinking to themselves, I think I've got an interesting story to tell, but I've got no writing experience. What would you tell them?
I was in exactly the same boat when I was 16. All my teachers laughed at me when I said I was going to go to uni. A couple said you couldn't maybe do it. I hope that this journey for there, right, and it took a long time for I was 16 getting told just to leave school to now that I'm almost 30. I hope that's telling people that, you know what, the impossible isn't impossible at all. If you believe and you strive, and I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It wasn't easy for me, believe me. It was very difficult, but you know what? I believed hard enough and I fought hard enough and it happened. And I hope anybody can take courage or confidence for that it can happen to average people. I'm not anybody special. When I go to talk to Waynes in schools, they talk to me like a teacher. I'm not a teacher, wee man. I was fucking young Mavis and Langell Toy, you know what I mean, in Coatbridge. I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy that worked hard, So
amazing stuff, man.
Go for it,
Go and do it. And it seems to be a constant that people just say, if you want to write, just write. You know what I mean?
It's just right, man. You learn on the job. It's like driving, mate. You can do all the lessons. You learn once you're out driving, you know what I mean?
That's a great way to put it, man. And I think that's sort of good for anyone who's obviously can't go out and play gigs just now, but there's a lot of people that are amazing musicians that just don't go out and play outside their house, man. Just go and do it. You're going to learn on the road. Lee Boyce saying, looking forward to checking out the book. Folks should also check out a book called Kirby by Graeme Johnston from Coinnin.
Kirby. I wrote that one down. I've never heard of that one.
Colette says, boo, Sugar Cubes, love Baby Doll. Hello, how you doing? You're a good-looking wee man, says Colette.
She must be talking to you, mate.
That's definitely you. Martin Windybank says, I was ticking like a Timex. Solid talk, guys. Lots of complex issues on the table here. Feeling it. All the best. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, guys.
And Paul says, middle class mortgage to the hilt, driving an Audi on HP, 2 missed paychecks from being destitute.
Exactly. Amen. Know what I mean?
And why is this on early? Well, we're on late. You've been away, Johnny Stone. Good to see you back. He's been working away. He works away. We try to do shows during the day as well as night time so that I can do the shows Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. And then I've got the weekend to do recording because I need to change my studio a bit and it's a nightmare. So I'm trying to pack in the same amount of shows in 3 days as I would have over 5 days. That's the plan. Just seeing how it works, man. Be good to see you back, Johnny. And Lou says, I've got the same top as Graham's and I love it. I bought it for jogging in the cooler weather and see when I put it on, feel about it.
Mate, I do know, by the way. Sometimes when I wear this stuff, I just laugh and I think, fucking hell, you've not come on much, son. Do you know that?
What's the best way for people to support your book, man?
Honestly, buy it the cheapest way you can get it. Loads of people say, don't go to Amazon, just buy it wherever you want to buy it. You know what I mean? If you want to listen to it, I'm not precious. I recorded it, do you know what I mean? I worked hard on that and I hope it connects with you, do you know what I mean? So anyway, I like to touch the books. I like to have the books in my hand. That's my preference, but
well,
doesn't make any difference. I hope you enjoy it.
Interested a bit. She says that she's not much of a reader, and I sent Colette the link last night to the Audible link. You will love it, Colette. Go and check out the audiobook if you're not much of a reader, and I think it will inspire you to read the book, mate. It's congratulations on what you're doing, man. All the best.
Thank you very much, mate.
But I'm buzzing to hear that as well. And we'll be back later on tonight, guys. We've got an amazing story of how Gavin Brains Bain tricked the whole record industry into thinking he was a California rapper, and he wasn't. He was Scottish all along, and he got a £1 million record deal. He went on tour with Eminem. It's an amazing story. That's at 7 o'clock tonight, guys, and we'll see you then. Go and buy Graham's book. It's called The Young Team. It's out now. And cheers, man. I'll hopefully see you in the real world soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys. All the best, my man. Cheers, mate. See you later.
Yeah, don't be speaking in there. Speak to the man like Mark. The love of the man attack on the radio. case you never know. You call that radio, radio, call that the radio, radio. You call that radio, radio, call that the radio, radio. Come and say, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, just go with the flow. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, just go with the flow. So till you miss a mark, now go bend down low. Till you miss a mark, now go bend down low. Boom. Lot of mercy. Yo. You call that radio, radio. You call that radio, radio. Come and say don't you be another man, I'll go lose your head. Say don't you be another me say and lose the head. Me say radio, radio. Call that a radio, radio. Straight from out of Glasgow, Glasgow. Straight from out of Glasgow, Glasgow. Nice enough on the studio, studio. Come and say eeny, meeny, miny, mo, just go with the flow. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, just go with the flow. So till you miss a mark, now go bend down low. Till you miss a mark, now go bend down low. No radio, radio. You call that the radio, radio.
Oh, fuck.
If you don't really know what's going on, there's a show that also doesn't know what's going on. Call that radio TV. You call that radio. Call that radio TV. You call that radio TV.
And we're back tonight at 7 o'clock for the Great Hip Hop Hoax with Gavin, Brains, Bane, Seared.